No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of Monday Night Raw for December 16th, 2024, coming off of Saturday night's main event. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. This week's Raw took place in Boston, Massachusetts. This was a double taping. There was a slight delay, about an hour. Results were coming in. Next week's Raw, already taped. You can check out results over at nodq.com if you want spoilers for next week's Christmas-themed edition of Monday Night Raw. WWE doing the double tapings to give talent the time off for the holidays. Very noble of WWE. Now let's get to Raw. Let's get to this live Raw as the USA Network era is coming up to an end. We had CM Punk come into the ring, talked about how it's only a matter of time before him and Seth Rollins lock up. He did admit he's the bad guy in this feud because Rollins was his failure. Punk brought up how Rollins wanted to train with him and all that stuff. However, Punk said he was now ready to give Rollins a wrestling lesson. Rollins then showed up, of course, in the crowd, got the fans to chant CM Punk, and then he said that CM Punk is still an a-hole. Punk responded by saying that Rollins belongs in the crowd with all the fans of CM Punk. And Rollins admitted he is a fan. Unlike CM Punk, he loves the company, made it stronger than it ever has been, and said that this fan has been in far more WrestleMania main events than CM Punk ever will be. And at this point, Punk had enough. Punk went right after Rollins in the crowd, and they had a brawl. Another pull-apart brawl, which is becoming a Triple H trademark. They fight. The officials come out there, break them up. One of them manages to squeeze through the officials and gets his hands on the other guy, and then the other guy passes through the officials and gets to the other guy. Punk and Rollins fought into the crowd. They managed to keep breaking out of the security and the officials. Crowd was chanting, "Let them fight, let them fight." It's the same old thing every single time. I'm so sick of it. I feel like I have to give a letter grade down for this. They just did a pull-apart brawl with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. And somebody on Twitter and X said, well, what would you do? Literally anything else. Try to do something different. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't need to do a brawl in every single segment to build up a match. Just saying. Segment was fine with the promo, but the brawl at the end, I'm like, whatever. I'm just rolling my eyes at it. We see this so many times. I'm tired of it. Then backstage, Rollins was yelling at General Manager Adam Pearce. He wanted the match with CM Punk. And then later in the show, Adam Pearce was interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and it was officially confirmed for the Netflix premiere of Monday Night Raw. CM Punk, Seth Rollins will not be at WrestleMania, at least the first match in this feud. Instead, the first match in this feud will take place Monday, January 6th on the Raw Netflix premiere. WWE is stacking up this first show. We got that match. We got Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, Tribal Combat. We got the return of John Cena. Very intriguing first show on Netflix. Pat McAfee returns. It's going to be an eventful night for sure on Netflix. I'm very curious to see how things play out for the Netflix premiere and where things are going for WrestleMania. By the way, I don't know if this means anything, but as Adam Pearce was back there, you saw one of the production trucks and there was that shot of The Rock. Now, of course, people will say, well, that's a coincidence, but we've seen stuff like this before. The Rock's face in the background. Is it a subtle hint to the future? Is it foreshadowing? I guess time will tell. We had Liv Morgan backstage with the Judgment Day, and it was revealed that they are banned from ringside for the tag team titles match with JD McDonagh and Finn Balor defending their titles against the War Raiders in the main event. She wished Balor and JD good luck, and Finn Balor sarcastically thanked them for that. Backstage, we had Drew McIntyre approaching Seth Rollins, trying to justify what's going on with his attacks on Roman Reigns and the bloodline, the original bloodline. McIntyre said everyone enabling Reigns needs to be taken out, but Rollins wasn't down with this. Rollins said he's friends with Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, and Drew McIntyre is not his friend. And then Rollins said he is going to do something McIntyre could not do, and that's end CM Punk. Time will tell if these two end up forming an alliance. We'll have to wait and see if Rollins goes full-blown heel. Maybe Punk goes heel. Who knows? We did have a mystery vignette on the show. The number 0 flashed on the screen and it was crossed out. A lot of people on social media think this is Penta, former AEW star, former Lucha Underground star, Penta, reportedly heading to WWE. His brother Ray Phoenix still stuck under contract, but looks like Penta might be on his way. I mean, we've seen other vignettes over the past couple months, and we thought maybe that was for the Lucha Brothers, but turned out to be Motor City Machine Guns. Will it be Penta? We'll see. We had Braun Breaker defending the Intercontinental Championship against Ludwig Kaiser. Good match here between these two. Lengthy match. They actually got 2 commercial breaks. And in this match, Breaker, his shoulder was hurt, his arm was hurt, and Kaiser was able to exploit that. And that's how Kaiser was able to get in some offense in this match. First of all, he slapped Breaker, and that just pissed off Breaker, and Kaiser had to regroup. But then he was able to target the shoulder. Breaker somehow managed to stay in the fight. He did a one-armed Frankensteiner, but then Kaiser countered the spear, hit him with the Kaiser roll, and then Kaiser went to run around the ring and send Breaker into the steel steps, but Breaker had disappeared. Breaker popped up on the other side of the ring and took Kaiser down with a shoulder tackle with his one good shoulder. Then he got Kaiser back in the ring and picked up the victory clean with the spear. Definitely feels like Breaker's a tweener at this point. He was booked like a babyface in this match, even though he's been acting like a heel in other matches. Very good match here. Braun Breaker continues to show his dominance, and Kaiser continues to have some good matches in WWE. We'll see if that eventually amounts to something bigger. Time will tell on that. But yeah, entertaining match here. We then had Rey Mysterio not allowing Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods into the locker room. Rey said that they crossed the line with Big E 2 weeks ago, and maybe they should find a different locker room. Kofi and Xavier just ended up leaving the building, so we didn't get too much of a follow-up with Kofi and Xavier. Like, I'm waiting to see if they get new music or a new presentation. We still have to wait a little bit longer for that. We had footage shown from Saturday night's main event, including what happened after the show when Kevin Owens brutally attacked Cody Rhodes, left him laying with the package pile driver. If this was AEW, Cody would be popping right back up from it, but in WWE, a pile driver is a big deal. We had a vignette for the War Raiders, and these guys were presented more like actual human beings. You know, over the past few years, they've had quite the over-the-top gimmick, being the Vikings and all that, but now we get to see more of a human side to them. They talked about their injuries. We saw the footage of them recovering from their injuries, and we got footage of Erik's child being born. Lots of personal stuff with them to give you some sympathy for these guys and all the obstacles they've had to overcome and all the setbacks. We then had Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, and Raquel come into the ring for a promo. The usual heavy boos for Dominic, and then Liv Morgan talked with a megaphone. Wonder if she got that from Jimmy Hart. Talked on the megaphone, said she was the greatest women's champion of all time, talked about how great her 2024 was. Rhea Ripley then interrupted and revealed that she is officially the number one contender. She confirmed it with Adam Pearce, and once she gets done with Liv will only be left with the chicken tender slut, as Rhea put it, referring to Dominic Mysterio. They did not confirm when the match is going to take place. They did not confirm that it's going to be on the Netflix premiere of Raw. Will they add it to that? Would not shock me. They could potentially save it for the Royal Rumble, but that's quite a ways away. Remember, the Royal Rumble is the start of February. We got like 6 weeks until the Royal Rumble. Wouldn't shock me if they throw this on the Netflix premiere. Now, backstage, we had Sami Zayn attacking Drew McIntyre. Their feud is not over. And we had another little mini pull-apart brawl with more officials coming in, trying to separate them. And another thing WWE does, we'll get to this in just a second. There's another thing that they do a lot that I think is being a bit overdone. So we had The Miz backstage with the Final Testament, and he said he doesn't need to be part of the group anymore. They took care of the Wyatt Six, but Karrion Kross disagreed with him, said it's not over with the Wyatt Six after what they did. And next week, Karrion Kross said it will be The Miz versus Dexter Lumis. We then had a triple threat match in the women's Intercontinental title tournament. Zoe Stark versus Raquel versus Kaden Carter. Kaden got in quite a bit of offense in this match. She had a good showing. But then Stark gave her an avalanche German suplex, and then Raquel took down Kaden with a fallaway slam, hit her with the Tejana bomb, but then Zoe Stark broke it up with a missile drop kick, and then Zoe took advantage and pinned Kaden with the Z360, and it did not look good, the finisher. We see this quite a bit in these tournament matches where the finish doesn't look great. Remember SmackDown with Michin? The Z360 didn't look too hot on this show. Zoe Stark gets the win, advances in the tournament. Match was fine. Standard women's triple threat match. Nobody still cares about Zoe Stark. I don't think she's going to win the title for people worried about it. I really don't. Backstage, Pete Dunne was upset because R-Truth is still calling him Butch, and Otis had to break up the confrontation. So after they left, Chad Gable and American Made came in, and apparently this feud is just randomly back on after it basically cooled off. Chad Gable says it's time to kill his darlings, and he's going to start with Tozawa, and that match takes place next week. Okay. So yeah, they're rebooting American Alpha versus American Made. That feud just fizzled out, and now they're doing it again. All right. Then we had Kairi Sane attacked backstage by the PFC. We didn't see it. We just saw the aftermath of it. Kairi Sane laid out as PFC were walking away. This is what I was talking about earlier. These phantom backstage attack angles to cover for somebody being injured or whatever. But I feel like WWE is doing this too often. You know, we see somebody walking away and somebody's been attacked, or there's a mystery attacker. We don't even know who did the attack. And it was done a lot in NXT. It got to the point where people were talking about how dangerous the NXT parking lot was. But now they're doing it on the main roster all the time, and it's getting a little old. Between this and the pull-apart brawls, they really got to try to come up with some different things. And before people out there say, well, why don't you come up with something? Well, I don't work for them. I'm not getting paid to come up with ideas. These people are being paid full-time salaries to come up with creative. So come up with something different. I know the excuse is you got 52 weeks of TV. There's only so much you can do, but I think you got to try to think outside the box a little bit more and not get too dependent on these segments. Even if like the pull-apart brawls get the big pops and everything, let's try to come up with something different. Just saying. So yes, I do have a little bit of complaining about this show. And some people on Twitter did not like it. It's kind of like when AEW was at its peak. If I said anything bad about AEW, everyone was coming on me. Now nobody cares if I say anything bad about AEW, but if I say anything bad about WWE, get the torches, get the pitchforks. Everyone's coming after me. We had our main event of the evening, Judgment Day versus the Viking Raiders. Viking Raiders had the early advantage, but then after they did some power moves like Erik slamming Ivar on JD McDonagh, then Judgment Day used some dirty tactics, and it went back and forth for a bit. Then we had two commercial breaks, and after the second one, Ivar came in with the hot tag, gave an avalanche power slam to JD McDonagh, but McDonagh kicked out. Then Finn Balor tagged in, hit the Sling Blade. Then McDonagh came off with a moonsault. Finn Balor hit the coup de grace, but Ivar was able to break it up. And at this point, JD and Balor were feeling desperate. So Balor grabbed the steel chair and was going to use it, but he was stopped by Damian Priest. And at that point, Viking Raiders were able to regain the momentum, picked up the win with their double team War Machine finisher to win the WWE World Tag Team titles. They got the pyro. It was a little bit cut short. They won the titles like right at 10 o'clock, but we did get the pyro at least. I would have liked an extra minute or two to soak it in, but nonetheless, Viking Raiders win the titles. Pretty lackluster run for Balor and McDonagh, so I think it was overdue. War Raiders are your new tag team champions. Happy moment to wrap up this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Show was not bad. It was decent. I think it was a little bit of a step down from 2 weeks ago and even last week. More in line with some of the shows from October and November. I give it a B-. It was a solid Raw, but it still feels a little bit like a lame duck period. But we did get the title change. However, I also have to knock it down a little bit for the pull apart brawl and the Phantom attacker, or in this case, we saw Pure Fusion Collective leaving the scene of the crime. But still, a couple of things I'm just kind of bored with. But all in all, was not a bad Raw. It was a solid 2-hour show. Thank you all for watching tonight. I hope you enjoyed. I will be back with the No DQ review. Santa Claus will be joining us this week on the No DQ review. Watch it live Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the No DQ YouTube channel. And then this Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite, I'll be on for the recap of that. And there will be one more No DQ&A video before the year wraps up. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the channel. Give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And tell a friend. Spread the word. Have a great night, everyone. Say yes to No DQ. And I will see you all next time.